die. Adi da di da di da din da die. Ein da din da di da die. Ein da din da di da die. Adi da di da din da din da die. I da din da di da and da di da di da. Adi da di da and da din da die. And da di da di da. I da di da di da. Ay, 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 ay. Good Shabbos, everybody. Almost good Shabbos. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to learn a little Sfas Emes on Yom Kippur. The Sfas Emes begins, excuse me, I'm just adjusting myself in my chair here. Okay, there we go. Sfas Emes begins this drasha from 5644. It's a few days ago, right? We just have 5783. Is that what year we're holding in, right? So it's a long time ago. There's a Gemara in Yoma. There's a Talmudic passage, a Talmudic volume called Yoma. The very beginning of Yoma, it says, 7 days before Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol would go away from his wife in preparation for the one day. The literal words in Hebrew are mafrishim Kohen Gadol, right? He separates himself. And this, to remind you, the reason is he separates himself from his wife because we want to make sure that he's in a complete state of purity on Yom Kippur, and he shouldn't have any relations with his wife or anything else. Try to keep him basically in isolation leading up to the holy day, because the Kohen Gadol has this very important job that he's going to do to ask forgiveness for the entire Jewish people, not just for himself. But then he jumps to another subject, which seems to be a little bit unusual. He says that Yom Kippur is truly unique, okay, because it's the one day of the year in which the world is even distantly resembling the world to come. Because not eating and drinking Yom Kippur, we take on the behavior of being like a malach, being like the angels. Now, when we think about Yom Kippur, we don't normally jump to think about the world to come. A lot of people are familiar with this idea that Yom Kippur, we're like angels because we don't eat or drink, so we don't have physical needs. One of the reasons why we wear white also, to kind of have that, heavenly vibe, right? But we don't think about the world to come. So let's look into the Sfas Emes on this idea. He points out that the second way which Yom Kippur resembles Olam Haba is L'mala min hateva, is that we don't eat or drink, and we're living up, as it were, above nature. It's a common theme that the Sfas Emes, if you've been with us before, it talked about that teva, nature, means that the things that that are part of the world that we can't get away from, and parking tickets, eating, brush your teeth, all these things. This is just part of nature. This is part of the normal course of human affairs. L'mala min hateva is a step above that, is unconstrained by nature. In other words, kind of beyond, unconstrained by those things which normally constrain us. So Yom Kippur, we can more easily conduct ourselves in a way that defies normal human behavior. What behavior is Sfas Emes thinking about? L'mala min hateva, you might think, oh, we don't eat or drink, and normally we're supposed to eat or drink. So therefore, on Yom Kippur, we're above nature because we're not eating or drinking, and everybody thinks we're completely meshuggah. No, that's not what the Sfas Emes says at all. And probably because there's lots of opportunities when people don't eat or drink. Like you've got a big operation coming up. They don't let you eat or drink, from 12 o'clock the night before. So what is it? L'mala min hateva, tshuva. Tshuva is l'mala min hateva. Tshuva requires changing one's behavior because change is truly above nature. Normally, we continue to do the things that we do, and they reinforce themselves. We do it this way, and so in the future, we're going to do it again that way. There's a proverb, Hergel Nasa Teva. It's a Gemara, which means that a person's habitual behaviors become their second nature. The things that we do become second nature to us. So change is above that. Tshuva, when we transform the way we live, especially something that we've been doing for a long time, that change is above nature. It's supernatural. So Tshuva and Yom Kippur, the most holy day in the year, has this above nature component, that world to come component. Yom Kippur is also a day in the year in which not only are we supposed to do tshuva, but it's the day when it's mesugal. It is appropriate. It is most feasible to do on Yom Kippur. And if you look into Hillel, he brings a quote from David HaMelech, chapter 139, verse 16. Your eyes saw my unshaped form. Again, this is the English. And in your book, all was recorded. Though they will be fashioned through many days, to him they are one. I'll say that again. Your eyes saw my unshaped form, and in your book, all was recorded. Though they will be fashioned through many days, to him they are one. What is this saying for the Sfas Emes? One day, v'loy echad bahem. They're fashioned many days, they'll be like one to Hashem. That one day that we can break out of the mold, that one day when we are not constrained by what we've done in the past, the one day when when Hashem gives us a special chesed to help us transform ourselves, Ze Yom Kippurim. That is the day of Yom Kippur. Many people mistakenly think that we fast on Yom Kippur as punishment for sins. And that's an easy way to go. In other words, it's an easy way to go. Somehow, because whenever we're denied something, our minds jump to the fact that, we're being somehow punished. And I think that also contemporarily, a lot of messaging on Yom Kippur has been about how we're bad and we have to be good. So therefore, fasting must be something that you do because you're bad and you're being punished. But that's not the way the Sfas Emes looks at it. And I'll be honest, I don't think that anybody I've really seen says that fasting is part of punishment. It's a very Christian idea. It's not a Jewish idea. We fast on Yom Kippur. It's a positive thing because fasting puts us into the mode of being a malach, of being on the level of the angels who neither eat nor want to eat. And it's the day when we demonstrate that we can live above all of our physical needs if we want. Right? It's a day of actually the fasting is a very positive component of the day. It's tough, but that doesn't mean it's about punishing ourselves. Rather, it's to show ourselves and our God that we can live above our nature. That which is so fundamental to being human, needing to eat, wanting to eat, we can live above that. And by the way, parenthetically, whenever you have a chance to speak with a non-Jewish person about Yom Kippur, and they hear that the fast, they're like, oh, so you don't eat like a certain food? And we're like, no, you don't eat any food. Well, what do you drink? We don't drink anything. You don't eat or drink for 25 hours? That's meshuggah, right? And that's what we do. Okay, back to Sfas Emes. When we remove that when we put ourselves above that desire to eat, it also gives us the ability to aspire to live at a higher level of spirituality the whole year. We show ourselves that we can do it. And, we generally tell people that if that the only mitzvah of Yom Kippur is to fast. And that really is true insofar as that is a mitzvah aseh, and there's los aseh, to not eat. He looks at it as a much bigger thing. As Rabbi Leff calls it, a spiritual care package to help us reach a higher level of ruchnius and experience a little bit of olam haba. And I don't know about you, but sometimes, really, as Yom Kippur is fading, the day is fading, I feel at a very high level of elation. And which normally one would assume you're having some good food or drink, and we haven't eaten anything. So note how different the fasting of Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av are. Tisha B'Av, we're not eating because we're in mourning and bereavement. Yom Kippur, it's to show that we can live above our physical needs and aspire for a more spiritual life. Tisha B'Av is Taka, is a sad day. The temple was destroyed. But Yom Kippur is a happy day. It's a joyous day. And let's go one more thing about tshuva here. Or not one more thing. Another thing about tshuva. Remember, we spoke about Lamalam and Ateva, that it's above nature to change. God gave us Yom Kippur on the day when we can overcome nature and do tshuva and change, something which is generally so difficult. Yom Kippur, it's mesugal to be able to rise above our normal selves and to change the way we do things. So what does this Talmudic passage that the Sfas Emes began with have to do with this discussion on tshuva and on ruchnius, right? On being more connected to godliness, and of showing that we can rise above our physical needs and have a Lamalam and a Teva day above nature. What does that have to do with the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, 7 days separating from his wife? Okay. So one idea is this. 7 days, the text says 7 days, Brady separates for the 1 day of Yom Kippur. If you add 7 and 1, you get 8. And 8 is well-known to indicate the level of Kedusha, holiness. 1 day above 7's the work day, is the weekday. That's what's constrained by nature. 8 being a day above nature. L'malam min hateva. The bris milah takes place on the 8th day. Shmini Atzeres is the 8th day, higher level of Kedusha. The Gemara is making the same statement, 7 plus 1. In connection with the inauguration of the Mishkan as well. the 7 days of the Mishkan's inauguration, and then the one day. The Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur, 7 days, preparation for the one day. And the 8, heard about this, maybe I've spoken about it, we've talked about this, the cube. The cube is a thing in nature, has 6 sides. The interior being the 7th aspect of it. And 8th is above in that which is outside of it. Tshuva is about l'mala min hateva. Fasting is about l'mala min hateva. Tshuva and fasting is all about showing us that we can live above nature, that we are not constrained by nature. And I said 25 hours. It's really 26 hours, by the way. Because really, we start fasting before sunset, and we finish fasting after sunset the next day. So it's really like 26 hours, maybe, getting closer to 26 hours. And anybody who's, a normal, regular person you speak to about this thinks it's completely insane and nuts. But for us, it's something that every one of us has the ability to live above nature. So I want to finish with this one more idea, just my own reflections on this Sfas Emes. And perhaps this is something that we can all take back to our communities, wherever we are observing Yom Kippur, or those people we speak to about Yom Kippur, is to remind everybody that Yom Kippur is a happy day. It is a joyous day. It is not a Tisha B'Av. It is not a sad day. Rather, it's an enormously joyous day because we have the chance to really show ourselves and show Hashem that we have the ability to live above that which is our normal selves and elevate ourselves. And Rabbi Nachman would say, right, you don't have to elevate yourself to the very highest. Just taking one step up already is a great achievement. Nobody expects, and Hashem certainly doesn't, that you're going to go into Yom Kippur as a regular person and come out of Yom Kippur as the biggest Rebbe in the world. That's not what Hashem necessarily wants of us. Hashem just wants us to shed off all of the negative behaviors and negative mindsets that have kept us from connecting more closely with Him in the previous year. Shed all of that, connect with Hashem, be joyous that we have the ability to shed all of that, and that will give us the highest Yom Kippur that we can achieve. May everybody be blessed with a sweet, healthy year. May our fasting and everything we do on Yom Kippur come to us very easily, and may Hashem grant everybody a long life, a healthy life, and a sweet life. On Mea B'Srim, until we get the we could really use that, Hashem, if you're listening, right? We need a real peace in the world. We need real peace in the world. There's so much trouble, as Bob Marley would say, so much trouble in the world, and we need a lot of Yeshua. We need a big salvation. So maybe in the merit of our fasting this year, may there be a big salvation for Klal Yisrael and for the whole world. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Shabbos, good Shabbos. Great to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us. Please God, we'll all be together for joyous